Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Wrestling Discussions. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about last night's NXT as well as tonight's AEW and give some predictions on tonight's match card for AEW. Now, when talking about last night's NXT, as you know, when I discuss NXT, I usually only discuss the championships and some other little rivalries here and there. And so I'm going to touch a little bit on that of Tyler Bate and Grayson Waller, Ilya Dragunov and JD McDonough, etc., etc., etc. So starting with Tyler Bate and Grayson Waller, they had a match last night. As far as I'm aware, Tyler Bate did get the victory, which I think is great for Tyler Bate. I think Tyler Bate has been needing a win. I think Tyler Bate has been needing another chance to kind of get into some sort of title spot. And I think Tyler Bate is an incredible athlete. I think the fact that he is just now getting into NXT, the fact that he's been trapped on NXT UK for so long, and I don't mean trapped in a bad way, but the fact that he hasn't gotten a chance to prove himself to a bigger audience, to a bigger set of the crowd, of the WWE Universe, it's criminal. Because the dude is so talented. He's the first ever NXT UK champion. He's the first ever two-time NXT UK champion. And he helped make history along that of Braun Breaker. And so you gotta give credit where credit is due. And it is most certainly due to that of Tyler Bate. Now, all that being said, we also saw um we also saw a certain someone challenge, or not exactly challenge, but call out Braun Breaker. And that was none other than Jinder Mahal. Now, Jinder Mahal is no stranger to the NXT Championship. In fact, I am all for Jinder Mahal fighting Braun Breaker for the NXT Championship because it is the epitome of a true story. Jinder Mahal and the NXT Championship have such a history. I mean, Jinder Mahal was one of the beginners in NXT, right? He was one of the guys along that of Seth Rollins and um Bo Dallas and Adrian Neville and Corey Graves to kind of really start and build to what NXT is now today. In fact, Jinder Mahal was the guy that fought Seth Rollins in the finals of the NXT tournament to crown the first ever NXT champion. And although Jinder Mahal lost, that loss has probably never left him. That's the whole point. This could be redemption for Jinder Mahal. This could be his chance. Now, I am going to say this now. If this match does not happen at Stand and Deliver, it is safe to say that Jinder will not win. It is safe to say that Carmelo Hayes will fight Braun Breaker at Stand and Deliver most likely, and it is safe to say that if Jinder Mahal is to fight Braun Breaker before Stand and Deliver, he will lose. Which, I will admit, upsets me a little bit because this is your perfect moment. This is your chance to give Jinder Mahal a much-needed story, a much-needed moment to really prove himself and to really shine with the WWE Universe once and for all, and to finally become NXT champion, something he's wanted since he started. Something that was, something that was robbed from him by Seth Rollins, something that he's never gotten back, and this is his chance. And I'm all for it. Now, moving on to the NXT tag titles, we saw Gallus and Pretty Deadly face off backstage, and well, it has been confirmed that we will see Gallus defend their NXT tag team titles against Pretty Deadly. Now, I think it's safe to say Pretty Deadly are not going to win. At least that is my hope. My hope is that Gallus retains, and then we see Indus Sher fight for the NXT tag team titles, because I feel as though those two deserve the NXT tag team titles, or at least a shot at the NXT tag team titles more than anyone else right now, maybe excluding the Creed brothers. Now, this was something I mentioned last night. This was probably the highlight of my NXT talk last night in terms of predictions. It was the promo that was going to be cut by JC Jane, and we did get that last night. Last night, JC Jane had cut a promo, and she had explained her actions last week and her attack on Gigi Dolan. And, I don't blame her. It's exactly what everyone's been saying. JC Jane has kind of been the underrated one in the group. JC Jane was the one that wasn't necessarily super focused on. Now, I will admit, I don't think Gigi Dolan was necessarily focused on. I think the focus was always that of Mandy Rose. However, I don't blame JC Jane for feeling as though she was overshadowed, because JC Jane, when it came to Toxic Attraction, she was the one that got the most cheers. She was the one that people wanted to see split off and go into this singles career and become this bigger wrestler. And so I don't blame her, because she finally no longer is held back by that of Gigi Dolan. She's no longer held back by that of Mandy Rose or Toxic Attraction. However, JC Jane made reference to what a lot of people were making reference to when that moment happened last week. She made reference to the barbershop incident between Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Now, personally, I don't see Gigi Dolan as a Marty Jannetty. However, I don't see JC Jane as a Marty Jannetty. I think both women can rise to great heights, but I also think, and I could be wrong, but this kind of reminds me a lot of Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox. And we are getting to a point right now, we are getting to a point in time where JC Jane is coming off as a heel, but she's not coming off as a complete heel. She's coming off as someone who knows that she can get the job done, someone who knows she's a good wrestler, but also someone who hates the people, because she seems to think that the people didn't support her, that the people didn't believe in her, and it's an interesting storyline. And I think this is going to elevate JC Jane with her promo skills, and I also think it is going to help elevate Gigi Dolan, because Gigi Dolan has needed help with her promo skills and her in-ring ability. Both have. And I think this will really elevate them, because when JC Jane and Gigi Dolan were no longer, like, when Mandy Rose left and these two won that battle royal and they had that 3 women contract signing between them and Roxanne Perez, their promo skills and the way that those two got so emotional with arguing with one another, even if it was in storyline wise it was fake, it was incredible, because their promo skills are getting better as they are now getting more and more chances to speak and talk and really improve their skill. And I think going into this rivalry, I think building a storyline out of this, building something out of JC Jane and Gigi Dolan, I think that will create something so incredible and so beautiful, in the sense that it's something that I think both wrestlers will severely benefit from, because JC Jane and Gigi Dolan now have another level of emotion that they can add to this in both their in-ring skill and their promo skill. Like, on promos, they can yell and they can roast each other and they can make that crowd just love it, and they can put so much emotion into it. And same with their same with the in-ring thing. They can add so many stipulations and make this a bitter rivalry and add so much emotion and so much storytelling, and it can make people go back to the good old days of NXT, such as Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, such as Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai. Things like that can really elevate this match. It can really elevate this storyline, and it can really elevate both wrestlers going into their singles career. Now, we also saw in the women's division, for the women's title, we saw a certain someone challenge Roxanne Perez for the NXT Championship, the NXT Women's Championship. That someone was none other than former NXT UK Women's Champion Meiko Satomura. Man, Obviously, Meiko Satomura is no stranger to professional wrestling. I mean, she's been wrestling since WCW, for God's sake. This woman has wrestled so long, so hard. She has adapted and changed her moveset to the modern days, and she is by far an incredible talent, by far an incredible professional wrestler. However, this match, I think, honestly, the person it's going to benefit the most is Roxanne Perez. Because Roxanne Perez going into this, she is the newbie. Roxanne Perez going into this, she is the underdog. She is the women's champion underdog that needs to prove herself as champion and prove herself as a women's wrestler. Because she is representing all of NXT. And it's one of the reasons why I love Roxanne Perez so much as NXT Women's Champion. Because this is her chance to really come in and really have that underdog storyline and really put over herself as well as other wrestlers and just have a beautiful run as the face of the NXT women's division. And to fight someone like Meiko Satomura, whether it be next week or in 2 weeks or even at Stand and Deliver, one way or another, to fight someone like Meiko Satomura for the NXT Women's Championship, that's going to be huge. And it almost reminds me of when Natalya fought Cora Jade, because it gives you that level of emotion in the sense that in the end, it's one of those matches where you know there's going to be a handshake. You know there's going to be that passing of the torch, and there's going to be that sign of respect. And one way or another, whether it be Mako or whether it be Roxanne, one way or another, you know there's going to be that sign of respect in the beginning and end of this match, because it's just that big of a match. It's just that monumental of a match for both wrestlers, but especially Roxanne Perez, because this is her moment. This is her time to shine and prove why she belongs here, prove why she is here and has gotten to this point. Now, we also saw Ilya Dragunov. Ilya Dragunov was called out by a certain Trick Williams, which doesn't surprise me. Trick Williams was attacked last week by Ilya Dragunov, and this is a little bit of a buffer before he fights JD McDonough, which they're probably trying to stretch and put out until Stand and Deliver, which I don't blame them for. I think that's smart. I think it's a wise choice. I think it's a smart choice. And it's interesting to me because we saw Trick Williams call out Ilya Dragunov. And it's like Ilya Dragunov was never injured. It's like he was never gone for as long as he was. He came out, he did his shtick on the mic, and this dude in every possible way is lethal. Like he scares me in the sense that he reminds me of someone who is so powerful in that ring and just so lethal in the way he carries himself, in the way he carries in the way he carries just his aura. It's such a lethal and threatening aura, and I would be terrified if I was Trick Williams. After that, though, like, while they were in the ring, we saw JD McDonough come out, and we saw JD McDonough confront Ilya Dragunov. Now, JD McDonough is claiming that he tore his retina. I don't know if this is real or if it's scripted, but he says he tore his retina. And well, while Ilya Dragunov was distracted, we saw Trick Williams attack Ilya Dragunov from behind, and then he left. And JD McDonough went to clean up the scraps, but Ilya Dragunov got back up. And again, that's something that doesn't surprise me. Ilya Dragunov, he's not a quitter. He's no stranger to getting ganged up on. He's no stranger to getting beat on after what he went through with Imperium. And so it doesn't surprise me that Ilya Dragunov is so resilient and so never-ending in this fight that he always seems to bring out in himself and in others. And personally, I just can't wait to see Ilya Dragunov collide with JD McDonough once again, because first of all, I think JD McDonough is a great wrestler, and second of all, I think Ilya Dragunov is a great wrestler, and third of all, I think both have a great in-ring chemistry with one another to the point where they can pull off an incredible match. Now, last but not least for NXT, we saw the North American Championship being defended when we saw Wesley defend the North American title in an open challenge. Now, when the open challenge was first declared, we saw Tony D'Angelo come out, and he wanted to challenge for the NXT North American Championship. However, we saw Dijak get involved, and then Stax coming to the aid of Tony D'Angelo, but Stax looked a little questionable in this moment. Stax looked as though he wanted to go after the North American Championship. And so my question is, where does Stax stand right now with Tony D? Is the family falling apart right now? Is Tony D still in as much control as he once was, as he thought he once was? Or is things starting to fall apart for the guy? But all that being said, they all kind of, broke out, and they were brawling backstage, and then Von Wagner came out. And Von Wagner challenged Wes Lee. Now, the match was great. I think Von Wagner had Wes Lee's number for most of it, in my personal opinion. However, Wes Lee proved himself again and again and again. Wes Lee, multiple super kicks, multiple knee strikes, multiple... his striking ability is great. The fact that Wes Lee was able to pull off some of the things that he pulled off against such a big guy like Von Wagner was really incredible to me. And I gotta say, even without Nash Carter, even without MSK, Wes Lee has really been able to take that this past year and just build a name for himself. Just build himself from the ground up once more. And him as North American champion right now is honestly, it's doing great for his career, and I think it's doing good for a lot of the people in the back. And so I'm really impressed with that, and I'm really impressed with the work that Wes Lee's been putting out there every week. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so finally, moving on from NXT and going to the AEW match card for tonight, starting with Wardlow. So Wardlow is going to be speaking tonight. He's going to be talking a little bit. Now, obviously, the last time we saw Wardlow, he had intervened. He had come out after Samoa Joe had won back the TNT Championship from Darby Allin. And it seems as though Wardlow is not done with Samoa Joe. I've got to be honest. I am tired of seeing the same people fight for this TNT title. We saw Darby and Joe go back and forth. We're seeing Joe and Wardlow going back and forth. I want it to end. I want it to stop. And I think everyone can agree that Wardlow is either going to fight Samoa Joe at Revolution for the TNT Championship, or Wardlow is going to be in the Revolution ladder match. I don't know. One of the two. I don't even know what's going on with the Revolution ladder match. My hope is that the ladder match is still happening, because that ladder match is really important, in my opinion. That ladder match, it resembles, the TNT title. It represents the TNT title at Revolution every year. And I really want to see who's going to go into it this year. I want to see some new names finally get a TNT title shot. I want to see some new names really get to prove themselves and really get to show who they are in that ring. I think they've earned that right. I think they deserve that right. And in terms of what Wardlow could possibly say, I don't know. When it comes to Samoa Joe, I'm really getting tired of the same old storyline between Joe and Wardlow. And I'm not saying that in the sense that I'm tired of those two fighting. I'm tired of it being for the TNT title. Take the title out of the picture and just let these two fight. Let these two go to war. Because if you take the title out of the picture and you just focus on what Samoa Joe did to Wardlow, like cutting of the hair and betraying him and then stealing his title, but then you take the title away and it's just that bitterness and that anger and that betrayal, you will have a perfect rivalry, and you will have a way of giving Wardlow something that you were trying to give him originally, which was making him a badass. And you kind of did that, because when you had him beat MJF in quick fashion at Double or Nothing, it was so quick, and he was seeming so indestructible that his matches were going too fast. He was an unstoppable TNT champion who wasn't really getting chances to prove himself, because everyone he was fighting wasn't really big competition. And now, if he were to beat Samoa Joe in this bare-knuckle brawl, he could really prove himself as an extreme kind of wrestler, as someone who is ready to go, someone who could move up the totem pole to the AEW World Championship or to just some major title, something. He could really just make a bigger name out of himself this way. But unfortunately, that's not what Tony Khan wants to do, at least from what I'm seeing, because the title seems to still be in the picture from what I'm seeing. We also got Adam Cole speaking on his concussion recovery, and I'm glad for this because I don't think Adam Cole has been on the card for quite some time, and he made his return, a month or two ago? Adam Cole, whether, I don't know if he's fully recovered or not. If he's not fully recovered, then I understand, but I would love to see Adam Cole go into the Revolution ladder match. I would love to see Adam Cole fight for the TNT title, especially since him and Samoa Joe have that heat. They have that rivalry from when they fought each other in the Owen Hart tournament. When Adam Cole cheated, and I think he cheated, and he beat Samoa Joe for the belt, for the Owen Hart tournament belt. I think that, I don't know if he cheated, maybe he didn't, but I'm just saying if he did, I think that would be a great moment for Adam Cole and Samoa Joe to renew that rivalry, to look back at that and make it for the TNT title. Because I've always thought this since Adam Cole first came to AEW, and, he wasn't winning the AEW World Championship against Hangman Adam Page. I was thinking in the back of my head, this guy would make for a good TNT titles thing, because he's on that caliber that he could really bring in some major names to the TNT Championship spot, like Bryan Danielson, like Kenny Omega, like, Jon Moxley, even if he's lucky. He could start bringing in bigger and bigger names into the TNT title spot. Now, we also got Brian Cage versus Jungle Boy. Now, Jungle Boy already has one victory over Brian Cage, but Jungle Boy seems to be wanting some gold, right? He seems to be on a mission. Brian Cage just simply wants revenge. I'm going to say, for this match, my prediction is Jungle Boy. And I'm saying that because Jungle Boy is in a position right now where he's really being built up, right? He's really being utilized. And this could be his moment to getting gold. This could be his moment to prove himself a little bit more and to make his way into some bigger and better position than he's in. Because ever since his match with Luchasaurus at Full Gear, I don't think people really know where he's going, per se, but that wherever he's going, it's something big in the sense that his singles career has kind of shot up a whole lot more ever since that moment. And they are trying to find something for him. They are trying to give him something, a shred, anything. You can tell they're trying to give him something that is going to help him stand out. Because you could tell from last year when he fought Kenny Omega that Jungle Boy Jack Perry was AEW's golden boy, in the sense that he was the guy that AEW really wanted to work on for the next few years and one day make AEW World Champion. And I strongly believe that whether it be this year, next 4 or 5 years from now, Jungle Boy is going to be World Champion. And in my opinion, it's going to be like a Drew McIntyre story or like a Josh Alexander story, because it's going to be that underdog story, the guy who's been wrestling in the company for how many years, and he finally came up and he finally won the big one. That's my ideal, my ideal way of Jungle Boy becoming AEW World Champion. I could be wrong, but that's my ideal way of seeing it happen. Now, we also got Mark Briscoe versus Josh Woods. Obviously, I gotta go with Mark Briscoe on this one. Josh Woods is a great athlete, but when has he ever been properly utilized in AEW? I mean, the dude has, no wins in AEW. He never even really got a moment to really prove himself as Ring of Honor TV champion. And Josh Woods, as tremendous of an athlete as he is, as powerful of an athlete as he is, he just has not been properly utilized in AEW, and I don't see that changing anytime soon, especially with the guy he's fighting like Mark Briscoe, who has, so much riding on this right now, with everything with his brother, everything with these 2 titles right now. He's got a lot on his plate, and I think that Mark Briscoe is going to get the win, not just for his brother, but because he's a tremendous athlete and because I think AEW is finally starting to gain a storyline for Mark Briscoe through this tragedy, which I'm not saying is right, but I'm simply saying that's obviously why Mark Briscoe is being even put on television, is because of this tragedy of Jay Briscoe. And again, I'm not agreeing with it. I'm not saying it's right. It's disgusting, but you know that's why Mark Briscoe's getting this push. You know that's why Mark Briscoe's being seen on TV on AEW. And at the end of the day, you know that Mark Briscoe's going to win tonight because, first of all, he's fighting a guy like Josh Woods who hasn't been utilized on AEW, who hasn't been cared about in AEW. And second of all, because you can tell they have something for Mark Briscoe going into this. They have some sort of push for him. I don't know what it is. It might just be because his brother's died, which again, I think it's disgusting. I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. Now we also got Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli versus Roosh and Preston Vance. Now, this is interesting because it shows the support that the Blackpool Combat Club has for one another, because obviously Bryan Danielson fighting Roosh last week, and Preston Vance trying to stall Bryan Danielson, but it didn't work out. And so now we got Preston Vance and Roosh teaming up to take on Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli of the Blackpool Combat Club. Personally, when I look at this match, I look specifically at Claudio Castagnoli and Roosh, because Claudio Castagnoli is the current Ring of Honor World Champion. Roosh is a former Ring of Honor World Champion, and Ring of Honor Supercard is coming up eventually, and I could very well see Roosh being the next challenger. I could very well see Roosh being the next challenger, and personally, I love Roosh. Personally, I'd want to see Roosh become Ring of Honor champion once again, because I want to see him be more utilized right now than what he's been. However, that being said, going into this match, I do think Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli are going to win, because obviously you got Jon Moxley, who's that hard-hitting, bare-knuckle brawling. You got Claudio Castagnoli, who's Ring of Honor World Champion. He's been on the unstoppable side of things lately. And then you've got Preston Vance on the other team. And Preston Vance is nowhere near ready for guys like Jon Moxley, nowhere near ready for guys like Claudio Castagnoli. And it's not to say that Preston Vance isn't a good athlete. It's simply to say that with this new storyline he's getting, I don't think he's ready for this level right now. Like, I'm sure he'll put on a good show, and I'm sure wrestling wise he's ready, but storyline wise, it's like he's completely getting rid of everything that is number 10 related. And so now, being in this Preston Vance situation, he is, he's kind of the newbie with Roosh. And so Roosh is probably going to be running most of this match, and so I feel as though in the end Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli have this one in the bag, right? That's my opinion. Now, we also got Adam Page versus Kip Sabian. Now, Hangman Adam Page and Kip Sabian. Obviously, my prediction is Hangman Adam Page, but I'm taking nothing away from Kip Sabian. I'm glad that Kip Sabian is getting Dynamite action, because Kip Sabian is a good athlete. He is a good wrestler. I mean, I saw his match with Pac back in the pre-show, the 0 Hour for AEW All Out. And it was a good match. It was a good show. And Kip Sabian has a great moveset. He has a great style to him. And I like this new storyline to him with the white hair and the paper bag. And I just love every second of it. And him against Hangman Adam Page is interesting to me, because I don't know if this is going to blossom into something more, or it's just a one-time match and then we'll see Hangman and Jon Moxley blossom into something more. But one way or another, I'm excited for this. And my prediction is going to be Hangman Adam Page for sure. Now, we also have a triple threat match between Toni Storm, Ruby Soho, and Britt Baker. Now, this was a match that was supposed to happen a few weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, but instead it was just Ruby Soho and Toni Storm. Now, back then, my prediction was Toni Storm. And back when it was Toni Storm versus Ruby Soho got the victory. However, this time, this one's tough, because Ruby Soho's kind of been proving herself these past couple of weeks going into this, as has Toni Storm. Britt Baker's coming back from injury. Ruby Soho is supposedly trying to make friends with Britt. Maybe. She at least be civil with Britt. And it looks to me as though, from what I'm seeing here, this is going to be a great match. However, prediction-wise, I'm personally going to go with Toni Storm once more. And I say that because I feel as though Britt Baker and Ruby Soho right now, where they are, I feel like they're being focused on a little too much. And I think people are overlooking the fact that Toni Storm is still a great athlete, whether she's heel or not. And I think people are overlooking the fact that she now has Saraya with her. And yes, Britt Baker's probably going to have Rebel, and she's probably going to have Jamie Hayter. But at the end of the day, I think this new heel side, this new villainous side of Saraya and Toni Storm, it's much more... It almost feels much more crafty, much more manipulative, much more evil and dark. And so I can only imagine what we're going to see within that match. And so personally, though, I've got to go with Toni Storm. I think she's the one to win this. That's my prediction. Now, we also got the Acclaimed and Orange Cassidy and Billy Gunn, also known as Daddy Ass, taking on Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh. First of all, I've never seen Sanjay Dutt wrestle, but I'm all for it. I love Sanjay Dutt. I love the way he carries himself with the pencil in his ear, and when he gets angry and fired up, his promos get so much better. I love every second of it. And personally, though, prediction-wise, I've got to go with the Acclaimed and Orange Cassidy and Billy Gunn, and I say that because the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn are just coming off of a tremendous loss last week. And so they're going to want to make that up. And obviously, they're no strangers to Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. They want vengeance on them. And Orange Cassidy really doesn't lose. Ever since being AEW All-Atlantic Champion, the guy really doesn't lose. The guy is incredible right now as AEW All-Atlantic Champion. And so going into this, I really think that Orange Cassidy and the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn are going to get the win. But I don't think it's going to be any less of entertaining when you have guys like Sanjay Dutt in the match and even Satnam Singh, and especially Jeff Jarrett with the guitar and Jay Lethal with his incredible athleticism. I think all 8 wrestlers are going to make for a great match tonight. And now, last but not least, we got the appearance of the AEW World Champion MJF, my guy, the generational talent himself, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Now, Maxwell Jacob Friedman is probably one of the best heels, probably one of the best guys on a microphone in the way he carries himself and everything. I don't know how he's going to appear. I don't know if he's going to appear backstage, if he's going to appear in the ring, one way or another. What I do hope is that Bryan Danielson appears along with him, and we get some sort of segment, whether it be a brawl, whether it be a promo, whatever. After what we saw last week, after the punishment that MJF put Bryan Danielson through after his match with Roosh, I want to see MJF and Bryan Danielson more. I want to see more segments of that, because I gotta be honest, this rivalry has really been starting to entertain me. It has really been starting to turn and blossom into something much bigger than I ever thought it would be. And I am all for it. I am so excited for it. I'm really excited for the match at Revolution. And so I can't wait for it. But ladies and gentlemen, those are my predictions. Those are my thoughts on both last night's NXT as well as tonight's AEW. Comment down below if you'd like any other future topics for future videos. And also, I have to say this, don't forget to stay tuned for Saturday's episode. Tune in for Saturday's episode, the Elimination Chamber episode. That is going to be a big one, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. As always, thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Peace out.